Now streaming. About the chat.
There we are. Looking a little yellower than you actually are today.
Yeah, it seems to change depending on the day.
Well, it's depending on the light level. And the camera has to compensate because we have a low light level. So the lower the light level in here, the more the color is going to be off.
We have 3 people so far.
Cool.
Awesome. Color's not too bad though at the moment. Seems to have adapted. Hey Angela. Hi. She says hello to you too. Hello Siofra, hello Ian. Hi crew, hi Violet. How are you doing?
Looking at it, make sure I don't kick the camera in the spot.
Okay. We got Ian sitting across from me so I don't have to like twist my neck so I can see him. But I think the sound will still work fine. How have you all guys been? 7 people popped up now.
Is it?
Violet, Angela says Violet, and then hi Ian, no more Wile E. Coyote moments this week, I hope.
No, not so far.
Violet says it's well over here, unbelievably, it is very well. Well, that's
cool.
good. That's what you want, right? You want it to be well. Erin says hello. Hi, Erin. Looks like I might have to... Nope, I guess not. I'm just moving my little screen here around so I can see what's going on. So, up to 10 viewers. I've been working on Ian's robe. That's what I've been up to. We've actually had some visitations. Both Ian and I have had a visitation, a couple of them from the Mercury being that we evoked. We haven't done another official evocation.
But I'm thinking of one.
Yep. Joy says hello. Hi, Joy. And yeah, I got a visitation the other night. He just sort of came by, looked like Athena for a brief moment with a winged helmet, and then I realized it was a Mercury helmet, and then it kept shifting around, so that was great. Eddie says, hello, Ian and Siofra, with a bunch
like
of
all the
hearts
colors,
and
yep.
pretty colors. Moonfire Dawn says, hello. Hi, Moonfire. Violet says, what stone is that on your neck? That's a green tiger eye, is what I have around my neck today. Sheila says, hello from West Virginia. Hi, Sheila. Love your colors. Ruth says, hi, all. Hi, Ruth. So, yay. Last week was a little light on people coming in to say hi to us, so it's nice to see more of the usual crew showing up.
Well, you know, it was Memorial Day weekend, so yeah.
And it's getting to be summer for most of North America, so...
It was still a great...
Yeah, we had a good time.
Great feedback, yeah.
Yeah, we always have a good time, no matter how many people show up. Moonradish says hello. Hi, Moonradish. Have you checked out the bank yet in Portland, I'd like to ask? No pressure. She just wanted to know if anybody came by and found anything. Sometimes my memory is too good. But I brought Ian's robe in so I could show you guys where we're at with that. I've gotten the front and the back put together. I now have to do the collar interfacing and make that, and then put on the sleeves. But we're actually getting close to being done with it, so it'll be ready pretty soon, and then I'll know how much extra silk I need to order to make mine, because apparently 18 feet wasn't enough for 2 entire robes. So that's because, you know, 12 feet is him. And I'm not 3 feet tall, so oh well, there you go.
Yeah, so I want to do an evocation of Nithaya, which I haven't mentioned to you yet.
Okay, who's Nithaya?
Well, he's Barden says he is the guardian angel of all magicians on Earth.
Oh, is he the one that you already have the sigil
Right.
for?
Right.
Okay,
I'd like to evoke him too.
cool. So Maja Sue says hi all. Hi Maya or Maja, probably Maya. And Ruth says, "Oh, cool! I love to see it." Yes, okay. So this is its inside out part. So I've got,
Wow, the color really looks off on mine. This is a nice gray purple, or I mean, it's a nice purple,
yeah,
nice violet.
this is a purple violet.
It's showing up
as
silver on my
right, and
picture.
mine as well. So that's not the right color. But I've got the armholes in. This is going to be the front, and this is the back. And I'm going to attach the arms so that there's space underneath. So you can raise your arms up in the air and not tear your arms and so forth. I'll have to take a picture of it with a better color.
Well, you just
So-
need to get that thing set right. So you need to get these
Yeah.
lighting and stuff adjusted right in here.
But anywho, yep, it's coming along.
Because the wall behind you looks green and not purple.
Yep.
Violet.
So yeah, that's it. Hopefully it'll come out a better color.
I just readjust things on it. That's actually better. Opening up that window help the colors in general.
Does it help this color yet? Let me wait and see what it does.
Probably not enough yet.
Yeah, it's still kind of grayish. It looks more blue hinted.
Yeah.
But anyway, you'll have to believe us. It's purple.
Probably need some camera adjustments too. I just don't like things that aren't quite, you know.
Well, at least from this direction, that thing doesn't blind me anymore, so that's good.
Sure does.
Violet says, that was a cool robe share and nicely done. A great chunk of fabric. Yes. Vlad says, hi, Siofra and Ian, sending you good vibes from the UK. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our live feed. So, and Violet says, I'm knitting a sweater. Good. Awesome. Hand stuff is good to keep your arthritis from starting to cause problems. So it would seem. But yeah, you know. So we're all good. And Saturn's just gone retrograde until October sometime. So this should be an interesting time for people who have things that they've been working on for for a while and are waiting for the results. This is probably around the time that the results will become available and visible and and so forth. And then those people that have been driving you crazy that deserve to have something happen to set them straight may get their comeuppance. I guess we shall see. It all depends on how it's working with that. But hey, but we're here and we're all doing pretty well, I think.
Trying to open the curtains when I'm washing you out.
Yep.
Don't get distracted by
I'm not. We don't have any new questions yet. They're all probably typing at the same time. They're all going to come in simultaneously, and then we'll be off and reading. So, anyway, as we're changing everything around, trying to get stuff going. So what do we want to talk about today, I guess is the question. Chill Baby says, I'm baking some self-love chocolate pumpkin cake with coconut icing. Ooh.
Ooh, that sounds wonderful.
Too bad you can't send us a piece. That sounds like some nice self-love. Chocolate pumpkin cake with coconut icing. Nice flavors. Awesome. Yeah, Ashley was outside and feeding the crows earlier today, and we got to watch them on our video surveillance system, which we had to put in because of Ian's sister. So it actually is kind of fun to be able to see it without interrupting it and watching all the crows come down and pick up their peanuts and fly off and stuff like that. So Jill Baby says, and doing lots of dishes. Hello, everyone. I wish I could send everyone some. Haha, yeah. Violet says, I would love it if you reshared how many planes the entity comes through to reach the triangle of evocation again.
Well,
Well, first there's the Mercury plane.
well, Yeah, it depends. So we've got, generally you start by contacting them in their own sphere. Um, so you have to travel there, which in this case would be the Mercury sphere mentally, and call the being down. And then um, when the being is coming down, it's coming down. If you're doing some materialization, you're materializing it down from the mental plane down to the astral, then down to the physical. So it really comes that way from the mental plane down to the astral to the physical. But the spheres, uh, like the zone girdling the earth is of course the closest, so it's easiest to reach. And then the lunar zone, so they come from whichever planetary zone they're in this case, and you bring them down. The triangle is a symbol of manifestation. So you have the two forces diverging from the top and coming together in a line at the middle. So it would be appropriate to, if a person were to draw the triangle as a red line, a blue line, and a violet line on the bottom. And that's your symbol of materialization, manifest it down. But you also have to have the environment right.
Right, the color.
Yeah.
And that was interesting last night when I briefly had another visitation by our guy. He brought me the orange color first. And it's like, and I see a lot of different colors in my head now, but orange, the orange yellow kind of vibrating color is not one that I've had come in very often. And so he sort of arrived with the color of the Mercury sphere. So it was interesting. Viking John says, love and light from Sweden. Welcome. Welcome to our live show, Viking John. Violet says, red, blue, and violet triangle. I love it. Thanks. You're welcome.
Yeah, it just helps the imagination and stuff. It doesn't need to be that way, but it does illustrate the electric and magnetic fluids, or if you want to just simply go with a fire and water aspect, same thing, and then blend it in the bottom. So,
does red and blue make violet?
Well, if you're looking at it, red is the electric fluid, blue is the magnetic fluid, and then the violet at the bottom would be the electromagnetic mixture.
What also the color of Akaja as well.
Yes.
This is kind of interesting. Colors are awesome. Ian is in the process of painting the paths in the Tree of Life at the moment for his next video on the subject.
Yeah, on the computer. I could paint it in person pretty easily, but getting it on the computer is harder.
Yeah. But, you know.
You just paint it, take a picture, but anyway.
Well, you could take a picture with my phone, and then we could upload it to your computer.
So.
It's possible. But anyway.
Anybody is welcome to come up with a subject or what you want to talk about.
Yep. I thought it was kind of interesting talking about being authentic. I'm currently watching a documentary about someone who seems to be pretty clearly not authentic in the way I'm talking about it.
Yeah, that's it.
So don't even want to mention it at the moment, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. Very strange people out there. There's a lot of them. And I think that people are looking for, you know, answers, and it makes us potentially vulnerable to the unscrupulous types. Shay says, good afternoon, all. Hi, Shay. Welcome for joining us. I'm assuming you're at work today, because I know you weren't feeling well the other day. Hopefully you're feeling all better now. But yeah, it is interesting trying to figure out what to talk about some days. Somebody was asking the question, how real is magic? And I'm like, I'm not even sure how to answer that question.
Well, you know,
hi Lulu.
There are things that have been recorded that people have seen, and just to mention a simple one that almost everybody knows about, Sai Baba materializing things down. That's pretty, he could materialize down pictures and pretty much anything he wanted to. And I've heard that his hand turns blue sometimes when
He's also
when he
one
does
that throws up gemstones.
Yeah,
He has like
but
a big group of people
Yeah.
that come, and during that event or whatever, he'll pop up with some kind of a gem out of his
but
mouth.
there are a couple people, Paul Brunton and Idris Shah, that wrote books about actual magical practitioners they met in India and Tibet and such, and some of them were literally wonder workers. And if what the author says is true, and I believe them, they researched it every way to find out any possible chance of trickery, teleportations and other interesting things.
So Shay says, thank you, yes, I'm feeling better and loved your video and being authentic. Thank you. Jennifer says, hello all. Moonfire Dawn says, that documentary wouldn't happen to be Teal Swan. I've been curious about that doc. Yes, it would happen to be that one. It's on Hulu right now. Lulu says, Lulu works. Many people call me that. Okay. Whatever works is fine with me. I've had people call me all sorts of names over the years, and at one point I says, I'll answer to any goddess name, thank you. So call me whatever you want. Moonrider says, if you feel inclined, can you guys send out some positive vibes for my dad? He is in the hospital with a hip fracture and on dialysis. I'm so sorry to hear that. You can, if you could send me a DM on my Facebook page with more complete information, it helps me to focus. So if I could get his name, his room number, and that I have permission to send him energy, I'll actually do a focused Reiki session for him. And if you want to share that with other people, then that's fine as well. I wanted to do something on that, actually. I was thinking that that would be a good video to do on how to do long distance healing and some of the techniques I've used over the years. So I am certainly willing, and I'm sorry he has a hip fracture. Ouch. Yes, thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, so that is one of the things that seems to be my personal focus, is healing as much as possible. You never know for sure exactly what's going on with people, but generally speaking, sending them some healing energy, even if they decide they don't want it, at least is a kind and generous thing to do. The universe likes that, I think.
Well, I do too. I agree. The only thing is, you have to, not speaking for any of us, of course, but you have to watch out because, like, depending on what kind of healing energy and where it's coming from, like the Christians, for example, can do some obnoxious things like praying for you to find God, which is all, psychic energy and stuff, and a person might not be compatible with that.
So Viking John says, how do I know if I'm able to master Reiki? Well,
get an attunement and find out.
Right. And it depends on where you go for an attunement. It depends on which philosophy of Reiki you follow. The idea is that it is an initiatory energetic system, and you need to have a practitioner of Reiki in order to be able to connect with that particular stream of healing energy. The other way of thinking is that you can do it on your own. You don't need to have someone do it for you.
Which is okay, but then it's not really Reiki if you haven't got the attunement for those particular energies,
right,
and haven't gotten the symbols put in your aura. Because when you get an attunement, they put certain symbols in your aura.
And distance healing does not have to be Reiki. I mean, I happen to be a Reiki master, and so is Ian, because we went through the attunements. And, that means basically you can send distance healing to somebody, and also, if you wanted to, you could give the Reiki energy and make new practitioners, which we haven't done. I mean, we're not teaching Reiki classes or anything like that, or doing attunements or anything of that nature. So, but you have to be a Reiki master before you can do that. There's 3 levels. The first level is self-healing and healing people that you're in contact close with. Second level is distance healing, and third level is, more expanded. But psychic healing, I did psychic healing before I ever learned Reiki or got attuned to the Reiki energy. And so you don't have to be a Reiki master to be able to do distance healing. It's just one of the methods that you can use and one of the streams of energy that's available out there. And so Moonfire says, I made a comment on a site about Nikola Tesla calling him a link between science and magic, and a science guy made a comment about how magic doesn't exist. Like, dude, it's all energy and you waste it being a smart ass.
Yeah, well, the way I look at it is magic is simply science that hasn't been understood by science yet. So, you know,
and we're learning new stuff about
if
science all the
to
time.
take that look at it, magic is science. So, you know, there's no difference.
The undiscovered
So
country.
he's what he's imagining just doesn't exist. It doesn't mean it's the same thing you're necessarily talking about.
There's that too.
With the word, the definition, yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of times people, science type people, think when we speak of magic, we're talking about, like, you know, the movie Magic kind of stuff, or the magicians who are tricking you, which isn't the kind of magic we're talking about. Either one.
It's really a science. It has rules and laws that you need to follow to make something happen. You have cause and effect. If you do things properly, you'll get the proper result. It takes practice, but then so does anything, basketball or driving a car.
Like everything else.
Yeah.
So Mixed Diva says, good afternoon, hope you are all well. May I just say what a bizarre week this has been. People have been acting extra wild. Okay. Viking John says, that's so interesting. I really want to get more involved with Reiki. Chill Baby says, my first counseling appointment is in 2 weeks for anxiety and childhood trauma. I plan on referring to anything witchy I do to cope as mind exercises. Any advice on getting therapy as a magical person?
You should be good at that. You got therapy while you're
a
magical person.
my tactic was just to tell them everything. And that may not work for everyone. I'm not sure exactly how, but I managed to get the right people, and none of them thought I was completely insane or needed to be institutionalized. Who knows what else they actually thought? But yeah, I mean, you can call it meditation. Meditation is something that therapists are getting into. Mindfulness exercises is another one that's become mainstream as far as that kind of stuff goes. A lot of times they want to know if you have a spiritual path that you're following, and you can say, yes, I believe that the world is alive and that spirit is real, or something vaguish, because really it's none of their business.
Yeah, nature, religion type of thing, or something
right.
like
I mean,
that.
it's going to be up to you how safe you feel with the person, and how, you know, because some of them aren't safe, because some of them have definitely got their own agenda. And just because they have a degree in our psychologist doesn't mean they're healthy emotionally.
Hopefully you get a good therapist to start with.
Yeah. And yeah, if they're just talking about your issues and so forth, unless they ask specifically, you may not have to mention it at all. So, I don't know. But those are some of my suggestions. I mean, in AA meetings and stuff like that, they talk about having a higher power, and you don't have to name what the higher power is. My granddaughter worried about that because, you know, in order for her to pass the NA when she was in Narcotics Anonymous, you have to, like, say something like that. I don't remember what she used, but I suggested she could say that she believed in the tree in her backyard. That was a higher power. I mean, you know, it's really a personal relationship with the universe, and as long as you have one, I think they should be fine with that. So hopefully they're more like goal-oriented kind of therapy, and helping you come up with ways of sort of healing the trauma directly. And certainly magic can help with that a lot. The rituals and things that we do and stuff can assist with that process. That's certainly how I used it.
Especially if you're doing it on purpose for that.
Yeah, I did a lot of that. All the beginning work I did when I knew what I was doing, that's what I was doing, was what I focused on, was trying to take charge of my inner self and heal it and decide who I wanted to be as a person. So
Well, it's hard to move forward unless you do something about all those past traumas.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
difficult. So let's see. Closed-minded people such as those will never reach the intelligence they so claim to have. Yeah, well, everyone's in a different state. Viking John says, that's a good question about the synergy with magic and therapy. Mixed Diva says, in my experience, good therapists don't care too much about your beliefs. They should be there to help you process and heal without a lot of external factors influencing their work.
Yeah. So it held. We've got Desideratum's message is held for review, and it says, magic, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. And
Well,
that's all it says. Why is that being hidden?
I have no idea, so let it go through.
Yeah, it makes no sense that should be hidden. I don't
Maybe
know
it's because pulling rabbits could be seen as a violent act. I don't know.
Not a clue.
Violet says, I want to share with you I have been so very slow to invoke and evoke because of what I recently lived through. Pure chaos for 8 years. I am very wary of creating any more chaos on myself. I for one cannot get out of. There is, in doubt, these beings are real to me, so I am an armchair magician only, which is kind of sad, but there it is. Do you have any thoughts for me to overcome the fear?
Yeah. I had a lot of that when I started, and most of mine was coming from the back childhood traumas and the things that I'd been taught. And honestly, most of my fears and things came from Christianity, so I had to work hard to get rid of those.
Same here,
Yeah,
actually.
there's a whole story about that, but my grandfather was a hardcore Christian, what do they call it?
He was a pastor,
Like a Foursquare, and yeah, the
some kind of fundamentalist preacher type.
fundamentalist, yeah, hardcore fundamentalist. But so for me, it was just a matter of exposing myself to it and starting off small. You know, I would probably recommend that if a person's going to do an evocation properly, they really should be able to reach that being's sphere mentally, and so you could travel there and converse with the beings.
Part of this has to do with learning to trust yourself, and that it's okay for you to make your own decisions and choices, because that's one of the things that a lot of religions tend to really drum in, is that there's no way that you can know what's a good idea or not without some authority telling you what is and what isn't okay. And and that takes a long time to actually get to the point where you trust your own gut.
And something like doing an evocation is pretty, well, I'll say extremely advanced. You know, like a person suited for that who's finished Barden's first book entirely from top to bottom, and that is quite the thing in itself. So a lot of your fears are things you won't need to worry about when you have more experience doing it. But I would say just start doing things. Start with the simple and harmless things. You know, do the banishing ritual of Pentagram. I'm going to do a thing on it. I got to do a video on the Tree of Life. I'm going to do a thing on the banishing ritual of the Pentagram, because the banishing ritual is just a very inaccurate name. It's more like a complete self-development ritual if you understand it and want to use it that way. So, and that would be one of those things that's fairly safe to start doing, and you get in touch with the forces. You get the Force Siofra, Gebera, Gedula, Infinite Mercy, Infinite Power, and Kether and Malkuth. So yeah, I don't want to go too far off onto that subject. Sorry, I have a tendency to talk a lot when it's something I like.
So Jonathan says hi. Hi, Jonathan. Viking John says, can you help me understand what shadow work is? So there's a lot of misunderstanding about what it means to do shadow work, because it doesn't mean to be like all terrifying and tearing yourself down and destroying and everything else. It's finding out who you truly are at your core, and then deciding if that's who you really want to be. So it's looking at how you were raised, what the people around you told you was reality, whether it's true, your assumptions about how the universe works. Like some of the ones that I discovered was the things I thought were true from when I was, first introduced to the world, was that somehow I was a walking disease and that I infected people with violence. And so when I met someone, they seemed fine, then they were with me for a while, and then they started doing horrible things, and somehow it was my fault, that I was evil, that there was something wrong with me somewhere deep inside, and this was just all assumptions about reality that I incorporated from childhood through. And so a lot of this has to do with facing and reintegrating your childhood experiences, and then as an adult not judging yourself for having been that way, and seeing where, like challenging the assumptions that you have about the universe, about, is this really true or not, and being willing to look at that. So, and then looking at the culture that you're raised in and the assumptions that they have about how everything works. If you're going to be an individual and be individuated, then you have to be able to make those conscious choices of your own accord, instead of just deciding this is the way things are because everyone has said that this is the way things are, which is what the fear part comes in.
That's true.
Because you're throwing out, the safety net of certainty that this is the way things are.
So you approach it slowly.
Yeah.
Practical experience is the best way to get rid of a lot of the
And
fears.
also taking care of yourself while you're doing it, because the point of this exercise is not to destroy yourself utterly and then have nothing left. The point of it is to get to that place where you can choose what kind of a person do you want to be, how do you want to interact with the universe.
Get all the garbage out of yourself and stuff that happened to you in childhood and all that affect your behavior, that are so deeply buried you don't even know they're there, and then yet you find them, and it can make some big changes when you realize, once you start realizing that it's in you and how you're reacting to it. It's like, sometimes it makes things clearer.
And it can go slow. It doesn't have to be it's a lifetime process. No matter how much of it you've actually done and gotten through, there's always new layers for you to discover later down the road, or new realizations that you might come up with when you get a new situation or something like that brings it up. So part of it is like knowing your own instincts and where they come from. Like when you meet somebody and they remind you of someone, but you're not conscious of the fact that they remind you of someone that you met like 10 years, 15 years, 30 years ago, or what have you, and you start to judge everything that they're doing and saying based upon that. So the question becomes, is it because that's your intuition that's trying to give you a hint as to who this person really is, or is this just a knee-jerk reaction you're having because you aren't aware of the fact that you are being, reacting unconsciously to someone, not based on what you're seeing in front of you, but based on something that happened to you in your past. So it's about more self-awareness of what are the things that make us,
right?
And deciding what to do. I mean, I was so bad at one point, I thought that anything bad in the world that happened was my fault. And it's that's kind of a harsh thing to take on.
Yep.
Everything and all the bad weather was definitely my fault. I mean, I was like, yeah. So that's sort of a basic overview, I guess. It's a process. So Luna says, hi Siofra and Ian, how are you? I'm late as I was having an argument with a magician about weather magic. Sort of a pointless argument to have. Desert Rodham says, would be great to talk about reactivating third eye visualization. Whoops, my finger twitched and yeah. Come back here. After any kind of trauma, shutting it down. Actually, one of the clairs, feeling safe about perceiving the unseen. That is difficult because I have a lot of that myself from the acid trip that blew open my entire ego structure and completely collapsed me into a pile of hallucinations and all sorts of other fun things. Not a way I recommend to figure this out. And you just have to go slow and take steps to make yourself feel safe and practice things that make yourself feel safe. I mean, you know, like casting a circle every night for a year gives you a really good concept of what it means to actually cast a circle and what you're doing and how it works and that kind of thing. So it can give you a boost of confidence that you know that you can defend yourself and protect yourself from something potentially negative coming your way, especially if you're going to have to see it. And having control over your abilities, that's the ultimate safety net. So that way, if something is happening and I am not okay with it, I can just go like, stop, shut it down. I'm going to go away and do something else now. And so, you know, it's your ability to control what's going on, I think, is probably the greatest thing that helps with that fear.
And learning that you have the ability to control
Yes.
what's going on, yes.
And so Violet says that was real helpful, thank you. Otherworld Wanderer says, hi guys, I'm back. Welcome! Luna says, wondering if you could advise, please. Someone nasty came into my space today and tipped over the items on my altar. Should I do a cleanse on the items? Depends on the item. Now, if it's an item that you don't use a whole bunch, then sure, cleanse it and then recharge it. But like when I had that idiot pick up my Anathenae, you know, to hand it to someone to cut a piece of pie. Although for quite a while, every time I looked at it, I thought about him, saw his face, and got mad. I did not want to cleanse it because I did not want to lose
years worth of energy. Yeah.
Right, all the years of using it for positive things. So I had to find a different way to cleanse just that specific energy out. But I would definitely, you know, tighten up your wards and put out the word to whatever it was that came in there that they're not welcome and they better not come back, because if they do, you're going to whack them. Like, you know, they're gonna get a blast. And you might want to put a mirror up on the altar, facing away from the altar where that happened, if it happened on an altar, or just around your house in general. And, you know, get those little craft mirror kind of things, and you just stick them in the windows, stick them facing the wall to facing outside, wherever you think energy might be coming in. So, and charge them up with that intent when you put them up there, that any negative energy coming at you is going to immediately reflect back to the person who is trying to enter, or the energy that's trying to enter. So that's what I would do. Otherworld Wanderer says, I did a lot of inner work. Good. It's important. Chill Baby says, shadow work equals all that stuff you don't want to think about. Start thinking about it. Yeah. That's probably it. Moonradish says, Ian, is the information about evocation coming from Barden's books?
I will say the information I am passing on is coming from Barden's books, but I have all kinds of grimoires and things about how to evoke different beings and the beings of the Goetta, and I don't know, I have like 6 or 8 grimoires with instructions for doing things like that. The only one I trust is Barden's books. I mean, the others have hints and clues here and there, but nothing's nearly as complete as Barden on how to do it and how to do it right.
So Desiderata says that Violet, I'm setting up a protective grid of black tourmaline when I do any magical workings in the presence of archangels, and just like Siofra and Ian said, start slowly, little by little. Eddie Adams says, hi Siofra, I was wondering if you could talk about the nuances between using Anathenae under the air element versus the fire element.
It's an interesting thing. I struggled with that at first.
I use the Athene as an air tool, and my visualization symbolism that I adopted to use it that way is sort of from the Indian way of looking at the sword and the knife as something to cut through mental projections.
Well,
And so,
goes with the yellow color that we use
for air.
for air in Western Hermetics.
And I know that some people think of the Athame as a fire tool because it's a weapon, and they associate tool weapon kind of things with passion and bloodlust and protection, and that kind of thing. And I don't necessarily. I this is magic we're doing. We're not actually at war. And so for me,
Well, that's because you're not dealing with negative demons and things.
well, exactly. I'm not dealing with nasty things, although the air dagger works the same way. I mean, according to some of the traditions, if you're casting a circle to deal with any kind of an entity, and you are confident that the entity is not negative in any way, you wear your dagger on your left hip if you're right-handed. So you wear it on your non-dominant side, which indicates that it's available for use should you need it, but you have no plans on using it. But then if you're going to decide to try and contact and deal with a being that you know is negative, you wear it on your right hip or your dominant side.
And usually use your sword.
And then we have swords. So, yeah, to indicate your authority over whatever it is that you're doing. And so, I mean, really,
yeah, it depends
each
on
tradition
how you're
is slightly different.
I've come to the conclusion that both are valid. And it's just what one prefers. If I'm going to use for the air element, I prefer something like a bell or, feathers or something. And I personally consider the dagger a fiery weapon, but that's I don't use it to symbolize the mental processes, which is more the Western Hermetic approach is division, the process of division. Like your brain divides things. That's how it discovers things, by cutting them apart, smaller and smaller parts, and relates to the mind in that way. So I think either attribution is fine, just whichever you prefer, but be consistent and stick with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like you're developing your own personal language with the universe. And it doesn't mean that someone else's language, even if it's the opposite of yours, is invalid, or yours is less valid because they have a different approach. It's your particular way of communicating with the universe. The universe learns what you mean by it, and modifies itself based on that energy that you present to it, and so forth. And so, you become the center of your own.
And just for interest's sake, I'll mention something else. Is Levi's attribution of the attributes of the weapons to the elements. His were based on actually using them as weapons. So, like, the panicle, the earth would be like a disc you could throw at them. I believe, I don't remember about the sword, but he did have different attributions like that, where it looked like you could actually use that, like a sword would be for like taking down a bull, for fighting the earth element, or I don't remember exactly, but it was along that way. So they had totally different attributions there, because he was looking at them as weapons, not magical tools, but physical weapons.
Right, and I see them more as tools.
Yeah.
So, Viking John says, good answer. I'm assuming to the shadow work. Violet says, thank you, Desideratum. Desideratum says, I wonder if there is a helper spirit who can help you heal your third eye visualization pathways, like calling an electrician.
Probably.
There quite possibly could be spirits that's their thing. You might, yeah, I'm not sure exactly. Your own personal spirit guardian might be more of assistance when it comes to if that's a good thing to do or not. But doing healing things for it, and maybe using it to see positive imagery and so forth, to get used to the idea. I know when I was a teenager going through puberty, and the number of premonitions I had, all of which were not fun, and none of them were happy premonitions. They were all negative ones, and can kind of turn you off to the whole notion of being able to know what might be coming. So, yeah. So Luna says, thank you, Siofra. You're welcome. Otherworld Wanderer says, found out a lot about me and who I really am. Usually I tell you, but the chat limit will not allow. Sorry. And except in little things. Desaram says that, Violet, I'm going through the exact same thing, even doing divination. Viking John says, would you call yourself religious? No. Because the definition that I understand for religion is believing something that can't be proven. And I don't believe that I believe anything that can't be proven, because everything I experience is something I've experienced directly. And also the part where a lot of religions have, where you're giving your power over to a higher authority. I don't believe in that either. So I would think of it more as a spiritual path and a relationship I'm evolving with the universe at large. So, yeah, and also religions have like dictations, like rules and things of behavior you're supposed to follow. And the only thing really, Wicca has got, some Wiccans have got the threefold law, although apparently that's a misrepresentation of what they meant by that even. But, our authority, it starts and ends with us, and we are the ones who decide what is a good act and what is not a good act as far as what we decide to do. How the universe responds to it is a whole different issue. It's not, but witches tend to not have gods and goddesses over them, but stand with them side by side and choose to work with them for certain purposes for a period of time, or not. They don't have to either. And so it really doesn't fit a religion. And I'm not in trouble if I don't feel like worshiping the full moon or, if I decide I'm going to do something and then change my mind. I don't have restrictions. I don't have consequences for those things, except I didn't get it done. And there's another time I can do it, some maybe even better time to do it. So it's not like most religions have got a lot of things, consequences and states and things that you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to do it. I don't have that. I'm just me. Sometimes I do a lot of stuff, sometimes I don't. Just depends. So Desidram says, this is silly, but I saw a quick video the other day of the Queen of England cutting a cake with a sword.
Well, what the hell else would you cut a cake with?
Right? Someone offered her a cake knife and she said, nope, I'm the queen, using the sword, because it's a ceremonial sword and it's a ceremonial cake. Of course, that's what you're going to cut with it. Angela says, as far as invoking spirits, Violet, just make sure it's an entity you're familiar with. I invoke only my matrons because I've worked with them the most. The trust is there. Desidram says, I had an image of a tree regrowing roots actually in the brain, healing those psychic pathways. Maybe your tree grounding meditation? What tree is associated with psychic powers? Well, I don't know what specific tree. There's probably some that are. But just in general, being connected with the planet and feeling that energy and allowing those roots to grow would be a good thing. Very healing. Connecting with the earth itself, because, it's more than just us. I think we tend to get caught up in the verbalizations of all these ideas, and tend to think that those are more important than like the visceral experiences that we might have, like touching a tree and closing our eyes and feeling the energy within it is not something that you can really do by writing about it. So we need to expand our language to include nonverbal things to get that, I think. So Violet says, this is what I love about you, Siofra. You are so naturally grounded, no rules, just live, be your best self. I love listening to you both. Thank you, Violet. Appreciate that. And she says, hi, Angela. Augustina says, hello, Siofra and Ian. Nice to catch you live. Brewing some lavender tea to accompany the talk. Blessings, everyone. Yay. I love lavender. I don't like it in chocolate. I must confess. But as a smell, I think lavender is quite lovely. We had a group, and it was my birthday, okay? This I find weird. So, just as a weird thing that happened to me, the woman who's supposedly in charge of my birthday party for the group asks me what I would like for a cake. And I said, chocolate cake with chocolate ice cream. That's what I always have for my birthday. She says, no, I don't think so. I think I'll add lavender to that. And I'm like, excuse me? My birthday? I don't understand. So I called my daughter up and I said, daughter, please make me a chocolate cake with chocolate icing, because apparently I'm going to be getting a cake I don't want on my birthday. So she brought the other cake, so I had the cake I wanted. But I just thought, how strange is that she decided that she knew better what I would like than I knew myself.
She's a sociopath. She
well,
just didn't give
that's
a
true.
damn.
She did turn out to be a sociopath.
Yeah.
But I really don't care for lavender with chocolate. I like both by themselves. I guess I'm a purist, right? Is that what that is? I like just plain old chocolate with not much added to it.
I don't know that you need to categorize yourself.
That's true, as far as that goes. So Lulu says, do you remember a few weeks back you said a bear may be my power animal? Well, my first tarot deck is based on Slavic fairy tales, and the card for power has a woman sitting on a bear. And I am a Leo. Interesting, right? Very. Always interesting. Angela says, hi, Violet. I love lavender and hot chocolate, and tea lavender mint infused vodka makes as good offering, but I don't drink it. I have had a lavender cake with lemon cream cheese frosting. It was so good. Try that next time. Nope.
Oh, I don't want to hear that. I can't.
He can't have cream cheese.
Any dairy.
Yeah. We have a limited...
Yeah. One of my favorite things, one of my all-time favorite foods is cheesecake. Yep.
Cheesecake will kill me. But hey, Augustina says, haha, don't mess with the birthday cake, right?
That's right.
Yes. And really, you know, if it's your birthday and people ask what you want, they're supposed to listen. At least that was one thing in my family.
Otherwise, why bother asking? Yeah.
Every birthday we were allowed to pick what we wanted to have for dinner and what kind of cake we wanted to have. One year we were very mad with my sister because she wanted spaghetti, and we always had spaghetti. And she was wasting her birthday dinner on something normal. But it was her birthday, so that's what we had. So Viking John says, do you have much knowledge about psychology? I almost think there is a correlation in some aspects. Well, I have knowledge about myself and how I work, and I'm observant and intelligent, and I'm not a licensed psychologist, but I certainly have had plenty of world experiences that give me some basis for the things that I say.
Well, I would say there's a correlation in a lot of aspects, except that the psychologists are limited to a certain extent, though Jung and went quite into some interesting magical things, Secret of the Golden Flower and some of the texts and
right.
Different things.
Well, he was more into the unconscious and so forth, which is getting more into ritualistic kind of
I think
behavior.
There's a lot of correlation, but they don't go as far as you can magically.
Yeah, I think that the idea of being able to go into, root around, and restructure your unconscious is something that psychologists don't think is possible still. And I think they're wrong, because otherwise, if that was true, I wouldn't be sitting here.
We've both done it.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's but that's the thing, belief is very powerful. If you are told that you can't do something over and over and over again, it's very difficult to break through that restriction and actually do something that everyone else thinks is not possible, unless you're extremely desperate. Yeah. Which was us.
Which has led to a number of yes. Yep.
So now everyone's talking about cake. Angela says, "Oh, poor Ian, I would cry if I couldn't have cake." He can have cake, he just can't have cheesecake.
Yeah, which is
And
my
I can make him
favorite.
cake without milk in it. We have alternate milks now, like oat milk and almond milk and
yeah.
soy milk, which may or may not actually be milk,
Hey,
but
they're great anyway.
they
I
work for
take it,
baking.
yeah, they do. Yep.
Jill Baby says, "Oh my God, even lavender cake with lemon icing would be delightful without the cream cheese. I'm going to try that, but maybe add a little mint too. Oh man, getting crazy. Oh yes, I love it when bakers are inspired to try new things. Is
Mint,
that magic or what?"
mint is another one of my favorite things.
Yes, I like mint.
Used to eat peppermint ice cream when I could.
Yes. That would be true. Angela says, "Oh, definitely let me know how that is. It sounds like it'd be good with mint. I know my mint tea went well with it." Viking John says, "Because I'm studying psychology at the moment and I find it to minimize the human capacity, it's like it washes away the magic of life, but that's just my opinion." Well,
I kind of agree.
it may be true.
You can use it for what it's good for helping to heal you, but then, you know, you don't have to accept that minimization, or because they have a structure that they have to stay within.
Well, and they're all about definition, like we were talking about, and human definition of things, and magic kind of opens up the door to more than that. And I think that that's where we differ when it comes to the difference between magic and psychology. There is psychology at the base of it in understanding yourself, understanding others, but it's more than just that. It's more than just humans.
It continues on
And-
beyond the limits they have prescribed for their profession.
And psychology is all about the human mind, not about the cat or the dog or the bear or the tree or the rock or all the other myriad things that have consciousness that I know I've encountered directly, even if they're not understandable consciousness as far as, how we tend to look at things. And it is still a new science. I mean, psychology is still in its infancy. So, but I would never suggest that anyone not seek I think psychology's got a lot of good uses, and they have a lot of good techniques too to help people. So it's not about either or. It's sort of like a combination of both. Angela says you should make them a lavender cake with lemon frosting with almond milk. We'll see. Joy C says, "My daughter made me some cookies with rose water. I didn't think it would taste good, but it really was." Well, yeah, rose water is kind of nice stuff. You can make rose ice. You can actually put the petals in an ice cube tray and then add those ice cubes to drinks to flavor, very mildly flavor whatever you're drinking. Jonathan says, "I'm probably skipping ahead because you will do these videos, but is there a short answer on whether Crowley thought unseen entities were independent beings or purely psychological phenomenon?"
Well, that's an interesting question. My answer is that Crowley couldn't decide. He states both in different places. He states that in especially like the introduction to the Goetta that he did a translation of a Goetta. He states the opinion that they're all contained inside us and we're merely exteriorizing them for the sake of something like that. But then later on, when he's dealing with his guardian angel and such, he takes the approach of them being a separate, independent spirit. So my feeling was he didn't really know, and thinking they're all inside yourself is kind of like if you've advanced to the point where you've become God, okay, all the beings are inside you, so to speak, because you are throughout everything.
The entire universe.
But short of being God, I think it's practical to treat them as outside, and Barden points out that you need to distinguish, because a lot of people trying to do evocations, the ones that get some results, a lot of times have reached a certain state of ecstasy and they've exteriorized some part of themselves, like the old things you used to see about the, what they call it, ectoplasm and things. So Martin says people can who do not have the clairvoyance to tell the difference can create their own elemental or psychic beings and think they're the evoked beings, in which case they'll act as the person thinks they should act.
Never
They are from
surprise you.
inside. But my opinion is, if you're doing a real evocation, they're definitely external. I don't think Crowley ever decided, because he treated them both ways at different times, depending on what he was doing and where he was at in his life. I think he ended up thinking of them as external, but really, I don't think he was certain at all.
So, Joyce C. said to Jonathan, do you mean like the thought forms are interdimensional beings? And Jonathan says, Joy, I suspect Crowley thought all of this stuff was all in our heads. So we've answered that, and the answer was no, he wasn't sure.
It's not that simple. I mean, like when he was doing the stuff for his guardian angel, he always considered it and acted like it was an external being that he was trying to reach. And then he's gotten some of his writings. I'm not sure. I think they're the Class A ones. He's got them organized into classes, but there are some that are purely channeled through him that he considers religious writings, and that nobody, including himself, was allowed to change a letter of them. And yeah, he treats beings as external a lot of the time. And I've seen an example. I probably shouldn't say this. I won't say which one it was. But there is somebody who I respect as a magician who wrote a book on the tarot and had a deck of tarot cards made, but with the attitude like it's all internal. And so I found that deck of tarot, for whatever reason, would only tell me stuff that I already knew, and it wouldn't tell me anything unknown. And out of Crowley's Thoth deck, I can find out unknown things. So yeah, seems to me that attitude creates its own problems, that they're all, psychological or internal.
Well, it's the ultimate hubris, isn't it?
Yeah, and fact is,
we are always the most important and only thing in existence, so that's part of our problem.
Fact is, Crowley didn't understand most of the rules for evocation. None of the Western Hermetic magicians did or do. I think Barden's the first one to ever print it up in such a complete fashion. Sorry, not to go on about Barden again.
Viking John says, you both have good answers, really brightens up my gloomy Sweden Sunday. You're welcome. We're glad we could brighten up anyone's day. Violet says, this is awesome. Inside, outside, yes. Lulu says, I had rose petals sitting in the regular salt, and now this salt smells fantastic. And if I add just a little to bath, it smells wonderful. So you're making your own bath salts. Awesome.
Well, that's a nice thing to do if you're using the salt magically, too. There's it gives you that little extra feeling. You always charge up your salt anyway, magically.
Yep. So Chill Baby says that Viking John, as a liberal arts degree holder, I think you could probably say that about all the sciences. They offer a lens with which to see the world, but it all will seem short-sighted standing alone. And this is very true. I totally agree with that. Because, whatever lens we're using, it's not a complete lens. It's kind of going to be one perspective of it versus other perspectives. So, yep, definitely. I caught up. Haha, briefly.
All right then.
Awesome.
Somebody out there has some more things
comments,
they want to talk about. I know.
Whatever. Yes, I'm sure. We have not answered every question the universe has to ask us. But yeah, I mean, in doing the video about being authentic, one of the things I was thinking about is why there's certain questions I won't answer. Like when somebody asks me a question to tell them a piece of information about themselves psychically, even if I knew the answer, I wouldn't answer it, because I'm about people getting their own power back and not giving it away to someone else. And I don't want to have power over anyone else. I want people to have their own power and make their own choices and decisions. Not only does it mean that I'm not responsible then for what they do, which is another consideration, but it also means that they're going to learn something from it and do self-determination on the way to becoming an individual. And so that worries me, that so many people are looking for answers and they're willing to accept answers that anyone will give them, which is a dangerous place to be. It's a very fragile psychological state to be in, that unscrupulous types of individuals can take good advantage of and create a need where maybe there shouldn't have been one in the first place. So, I mean, it did get me thinking about that. Because, you know, this is what this path is about, is coming into your own power and becoming your own person, you know, determining your own fate, your own path, and taking personal responsibility for your own actions and the consequences of all that stuff. So, so Moonfire Dawn says, I have been drawn to Dion Fortune. I have read Psychic Self-Defense. What do you recommend next? After her, I want to dig Barden. Okay, I recommend her novel, The Sea Priestess. It's very wonderful. In fact, she talks about astral temples in that one, I think. Trying to think of some of her other books. I've read a fair number of hers, but it's been a long time.
Well, we have some.
Well, yeah. Jonathan says, thanks, guys. I guess the reason I haven't found a good answer on Crowley's views on this is because there isn't any answer. Barden is so much easier to get along with.
Well, that's true.
That's true. He's a little more...
He was a lot more informed on... In my opinion, Barden is the most informed person I've ever found on magic, and I have a lot of books and read a lot of books.
That's the one that you already read, the one on self-defense, but it has a list of books inside of it?
No, this is the Llewellyn Guide to Practical Self-Defense.
Oh, that's a different one. Okay. I just saw Psychic Self-Defense and assumed it was going to be hers. So Lulu says, nobody teaches that Newton was an alchemist. Wonder why? Because alchemy is in ill repute.
Well, a lot of them, you know, they don't teach that, like Paracelsus and a lot of the others were alchemists too, and they just kind of ignore that.
And here we go. This is exactly the discussion I was having with Ashley earlier. Angela says, but why in the stories of alchemy were they always trying to get gold? Seems when I hear an old story about alchemy, they always want gold for some reason. And I don't think they were talking about literal gold in general.
Sometimes they were.
Sometimes they were, but a lot of times that was code for self-development, self-awareness, becoming more transmutated on
And some
their
of
own.
the other aspects of it, gold is related to the sun. The sun is the dot in the circle. So they were looking at what they call a quintessence. It was also a euphemism for elixir of immortality, or less the philosopher's stone. But in some cases they meant actually gold. There certainly were a lot of them trying to transmute things into gold.
That would make a king happy.
Yeah.
So like everything else, there's misinformation and stories and theories and rumor, etc. Violet says, since water is a consciousness, does that mean the river and lake are separate beings? No.
No.
They have beings in them, but they're not like the lake superior is not like a being.
Yeah.
As far as I know.
Yeah, I agree.
And Violet says, Sea Priestess, which author? Dion Fortune. Angela says, something exciting happened to me a couple of days ago. My grandmother, with no interest in magic, let me turn over a few tarot cards for her. She noticed me self-reading and commented on how pretty my deck was. I said, thanks. Want me to turn a few over for you for fun? She said, sure. And at the end, stated the reading was interesting and it would be nice if it came true. But that shouldn't think it would ever be her thing. I said, that's okay. We are all into different things, but we can be nice regardless. Sounds like a nice encounter. Moonradish says, how do you know when you're ready to perform an evocation? Good question.
Well,
for one, look at what the ritual requires. So can you maintain focus concentration for 2 hours without losing your focus? Because it takes about 2 hours to do it. Can you maintain the visualization of the circle and the triangle? Can you travel well between the planes? Can you move yourself from physical to astral to mental and back? Can you communicate directly with the being and hear what it has to say? Are your clairvoyant abilities up to snuff, or do you have someone with you who is clairvoyant enough to be able to tell you what is being said? Like,
That's probably the most important thing, is the clairvoyant.
I mean, like, when we called the being down after she had arrived, we were given a slightly different way to pronounce its name that I could hear quite clearly and pass that on to Ian. So it's like, a combination of factors. Sounds like someone called for either a fire truck or an ambulance somewhere nearby. So that would be the question, is like, look at your skill set, and if you're not ready to do it, then work on the skills that you would need to be able to do it.
In a nutshell, here's what you need to be able to do a proper evocation. You need to be able to travel to the plane of the being, call it down into our plane. You have to be able to consciously come back into your mental body, have the being follow you. Then the being will be in your place in the mental sphere. Then you have to focus on your astral body and bringing it down astrally, and then on your physical body and bringing it down physically to have it materialize. You have to be able to make a seal for the being that is correct and effective enough to get a contact with the being through its seal to start with. So you have to be able to pretty much communicate and stuff before you can do any of this, and then you need to know all the details of how the symbolism of the circle and the triangle are two of the most important right off the bat, and all the other implements you're going to use. So yeah,
So Desdron says, I just started reading Psychic Witch by Matt Aron, and it's pretty good so far. Okay, good. Jonathan says, Siofra, in your video on defining the universe, I watched it twice. I couldn't tell whether you believe the universe is self-aware or not. Like, do you believe the universe has a soul? I believe this universe is self-aware. A soul is something that humans have, and we describe as something that travels through time and space and in between lives and so forth. So in that regard, no, because the universe is everything. It doesn't need to have something separate like a soul.
Yeah, and being... you have to be careful when you say if it's self-aware, that if you descend into duality, like the perceived and the perceiver, the object and the perceiver, as being separate, then does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
I don't know. But yes, human definitions don't really apply.
If it's self-aware,
not aware the
but
same
it's not
way.
It's not a separate object, right? It's
It's like your cells are self-aware.
I would say it's self-aware, but everything is it, and everything is in its consciousness, and it is all things.
Yes.
So, in that sense, even the dirt or rocks have some awareness or consciousness in them, but it's not as it doesn't. The consciousness wouldn't see itself, wouldn't see any separation, so there can't really be a manifestation of that directly. Sorry, I'm going too far afield.
Well, I think this is actually like how some of the Wiccans described the beginning of the universe. It's like the universe knew itself but didn't have any sense of itself, and in order to be able to perceive itself, it had to split into different things to be able to perceive itself. Right. But then the ultimate thing is still everything, so there's no perception of self in that regard.
But I think there is, I'll call it what Eckhart Tolle says, called it a force field that is God.
Yeah, I think of it as that membrane of existence, of consciousness that you can interact with, and that's how magic is one of the languages we use to be able to communicate directly with that kind of energetic field of awareness that is the universe.
Yeah, and that's what...
And it's not easy to describe. I mean, even though I know in my mind what I mean, words are a limitation to be able to express it, because words are linear And the universe is not linear. It's all times, it's all places, it's all things. And anytime we try to break it down to be able to talk about it, we are diminishing it in the attempt to express what it is. So the best way is to go out, sit down, close your eyes, open your mind, and try to be as much of the universe as you can conceive of. And it's the experience of it that will tell you whether it's true. That's the only thing I can think of. But I try. I mean, it's like that's what we're down here doing, this kind of thing. So Deseratum says, alchemy, gold equals wisdom. Angela says, how fascinating. Maybe the Philosopher's Stone stories are code for attaining higher alchemy knowledge.
Well, a lot of them are. Let me state my opinion on this. I believe that the Philosopher's Stone can exist as an actual thing and work pretty much like they said. And the making gold is also an actual possibility, the way they discuss it. And I've found out through reading and studying alchemy for some time that it starts to make sense to you after a while. So you can decipher it. After I burned up our microwave, I decided I was going to go a different path than the alchemy, because alchemy has its
dangers.
Stuff. Yeah.
Inherent dangers like explosions.
They were looking for wisdom and the quintessence, and part of it was the Philosopher's Stone. The quintessence is what you can use to make gold out of, but it's also the quintessence as of knowledge. And Barden says it's basically the Akasha. They said it can be found everywhere, yet nobody accounts of any worth because it's everywhere. So yeah, there is philosophy in it, but I come to believe there's the actual physical thing, that the Philosopher's Stone can exist as a physical thing, and so can transmutation. And Barden goes into that a little bit, and also makes me believe that that's possible.
So Jonathan says, Dizzy, are you planning on doing all the exercises in Psychic Witch? I'm trying to, but it's a lot of work. Desideratum says that, Jonathan, I love that question. I believe the universe is sentient, very cautiously curious about black holes. And let me go down here. I'm going to go with instinct as far as lessons from that book, but definitely building a foundation first. Moonradish says, thanks. Joyce E. Jean says, is there a difference between the HGA, the higher self, and the oversoul, or are they different terms for the same being?
Great question.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I think the higher guardian angel, yeah, boy, that's a packed question, isn't it?
Well, I actually have kind of an answer for that.
Okay, go forth and answer.
Because this is something that's come up in my mind. So, in my mind, there are two aspects. There is an actual guardian angel, which is a separate being that you can contact. And the problem is that this gets confused with what they call the guru in the third eyes, where you receive the influx from your higher self as if a being were speaking to you, and it's pictured in India as the guru. So I believe there are both. You have a guardian angel, which is a separate being, but you also have, when your third eye awakens, you have an internal guru which will teach you, and once you reach that point, you don't need any other instruction. That's it. So they're kind of similar, and I believe that's another area where I believe Crowley was mistaken or uncertain, and he believed that they were both the same thing, and I do not.
So, Deseratum says that, Ian, you're right on point, not rambling at all. Lul says you can transmute elements, but you need a ton of energy, modern physics, so alchemists were not wrong, just technology wasn't ready. Jonathan says, thanks for the answer on the universe. I was thinking the only mechanism by which karma can work is if the universe is self-aware and has a soul. I disagree.
I disagree.
Yeah, karma is a natural process, sort of like if you jump off a cliff, gravity will pull you down and you will hit the floor.
Or like a set of scales that are balanced, and if you put a weight on one side, it goes down.
It's just a natural consequence of actions.
It's natural and shifting of energy. So.
And I don't think that it's qualitative.
I don't think there's any intelligence deciding to deal with karma at all.
There's no like overview committee that says this was bad, this was good, but you put this energy out and this is what happened.
Yeah,
you
it's like
threw
pushing,
a giant rock in a pond, and if it's a big enough rock, you kill all the dinosaurs.
Or throw a rock through a window. Or
I mean, it's just actions have consequences. And you may not always know what those consequences are, but they're just a natural consequence.
But I don't believe any beings are sitting there judging you for your karma and saying, I'm going to blast you with a lightning bolt or anything like that. The judges of Saturn are supposed to do a certain amount, but I don't think they get involved except in like really severe cases.
Yeah.
Or severe cases of really bad crimes or.
Well, they're there to help humans figure out what justice might actually look like. That's a different mechanism.
You just look at it. I look at it like it's just a bunch of levers connected together, and it's so complicated you never know what's going to come out. You push on this one, and you don't know what's going to come out the other end because it's so complicated inside that big black box.
Well, right. You say this word to somebody. Okay, so like an example today that we were talking about before the show started was. I had a woman that came in to see me, and she, to get a massage. She was having a bad time with her husband. He was becoming violent. He was throwing furniture out the window. She was realizing that this was an unhealthy relationship, and she said to me that she was going to go home and leave him and tell him off right then, and I told her not to do it. I said, don't do that, because this is when things are most likely to go bad, and you are most likely to die. So I told her what to do, which I don't often do. I just said, here's what you need to do. Get a job, get your own bank account, get your money together, have a place to go, leave him when he's not home. And that was the only time I saw her. So I was an instrument of information, and then it was up to her to decide what to do with it and what the consequences of that information would have. Years later, I walked into my bank, and she was my bank teller. And I walked up, and I didn't recognize her because I'd only seen her once, like, with her head like this. So it's not like I have good facial recognition at that point. But she knew who I was, and she said, I just want to thank you for saving my life. And so I got to find out that one act that I did actually had a beneficial consequence for her, but not because I said it, but because she followed through with it. And so, it's no way to know when you see something and you say something, whether people are going to follow through with it or not. And that would be, I guess, good karma in the sense that she's alive, and I think it's good. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
Barton describes the universe as like a big clockwork mechanism where everything gears together precisely. So if you move this one over here, you'll get some result, but you just can't predict it because it might go through.
Yeah.
It may take many years even to get your karma.
So Lulu says, I don't like when people use karma to excuse abusers. They are abusing you because of your bad karma. I completely and totally agree with you.
And that sucks. People do that.
My personal experience with that was my first husband, who was a serial rapist, sociopath, and he said that he was karma's instrument and that the women that he was raping wanted him to do it because they had some bad karma they needed to get rid of. And so he was serving a higher purpose. It's a crock. Complete and utter crock.
It's an excuse to behave badly.
And that's one of the things that people often use the idea of karma to explain. Like, you were born into a bad family, it's because you chose to be in a bad family. So the responsibility of the people that you're born into now no longer has any kind of a, thing. So, yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, so the Misty system, your message got held for review. So
because of using the F word.
But, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and show it, but keep the profanity down.
And so the Misty System says, hey, happy to be here. I agree. Jonathan says, Lulu, well said. There is never an excuse for cruelty. Misty System says, goodness, that's fucking terrifying. I'm so glad that you survived him, and so am I. It certainly taught me something about sociopaths and about how people can twist people's ideals and desire to be better into some very weird excuse system for bad behavior and not ever taking personal responsibility for their own stuff. So, yes. So, Desiderodum says, anyone want to talk about sex with ghosts? Or former partners who've crossed but not earthbound, asking for a friend? I really don't have much to say about that.
Yeah, I don't either. I have no opinion. I haven't investigated it, so it's one of those things that just has an interest.
I think that sometimes Kundalini awakening can be mistaken as having sex with a spirit being because of how it feels, and I've talked to a few people about that, and the people that are insistent that it's actually a spirit being don't want to listen to anything I have to say on the subject, so that's fine. But it's one of those definitional things.
Yeah. I haven't even. That's something I have so little interest in. I haven't even thought about it. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be
dismissive.
There's so many important things to learn about magic. I guess that's part of my problem. I keep learning, and I'm not happy unless I'm continually learning something more.
So Lava Moonchild says third eye pain as well as physical pain on the eyes when opening. You mean your physical eyes are hurting when you open them, as well as having pain in your third eye. Misty says, my bad for the language. Also, could we talk about protective rituals to consider beyond smudging with sage? Oh, we have plenty of those kinds of things on there. But unfortunately, we only have 4 minutes left in our live show. So we're going to kind of...
Yeah.
So Lava Moonchild says, yes. Okay, so have you been to an eye doctor to see if you've got something going on with your physical eyes that could be causing the problem? Because sometimes tension in the eyes can make the eyes hurt. As far as pain in the third eye upon opening, you might want to put something soothing on there, like rose quartz maybe, to kind of calm it down.
Yeah, something watery maybe. That's what,
or not practice too much. Take yourself a break, do something different, do some grounding exercises or shielding exercises, and then allow it to come back when it's ready. Sometimes we try to push things a little bit too quickly, and that can cause problems.
Well, I find if I try using my third eye consciously, focusing on the spot will cause me some pain normally, just from the focus. I'm not sure why.
Well, it could be because we're tensing our physical eyes when we're thinking about seeing through our forehead. I don't know. But yeah, we have sage is only useful for getting rid of negative energy, and it doesn't actually fix anything.
But yeah, that's the beginning. Yeah, there's making a good circle is the next good protective thing, depending on if you're looking at protecting a house or protecting a room, what you're doing exactly.
I think I have an entire group of videos under psychic self-defense, so you might want to check out some of those. I talk about how to seal a house from human spirit intrusions, what to do with that, and also some other paranormal activity, etc., casting a circle, and so forth.
Yeah, so there's like a lot using stones to suck up bad energy and ground them into the ground.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do. It's amazing how much stuff there is out there.
Yeah.
Misty System says, I'll check that out. Thank you. You're welcome. Lava Moonchild says, thank you. You're welcome. Desiderodum says, thanks, Jonathan. I'll pass that along because I'm actually asking for a friend. That would be Heavenly Bridegrooms by Ida Craddock, which is something I've not heard of. All right, so we've got 2 minutes left. Any last hellos, goodbyes, questions, suggestions for future videos? We're all about that. But as usual, it's been entertaining and fun and interesting. Lulu says, have a good evening. Violet says, love to you. Thank you very much. We appreciate the good input. Oh, and I'll look on my Facebook page and see about getting that information. to send some healing energy to that individual's father, I think they said. So hopefully that'll be there. Jill Baby says, thank you both. You're welcome. Ian says, blessed be to all our viewers. Absolutely. It's like this is an exploration. Joey D says, thanks for the chat. Blessings to all. Thank you very much. And Lava Moonchild says, your experience with the Akashic Records for me, it has felt like a womb. The Misty System says, I'd be interested in a future video about your experiences with art and your spiritual paths. Interesting. Okay. Moonfire says, thanks for the book's recommendation. I found a library that has it. Thank you all. Bye, everyone. Desi says, we were trying to figure out if she had a visitation or if it was something else. She said it was a separate entity. Yeah, I know it feels like that sometimes, but maybe it was. I wasn't there. I don't know. So, all right. Blessed be everybody. Have yourselves a good week. As usual, you can send in comments and so forth. You can hit me up on my Facebook page. Send me a friend's request if you want to. You can send me an email at shifrasmagicalcove@gmail.com. And we look forward to seeing you guys later. Bye all.
Bye.